Hi everyone. So, since it is Tuesday and I have not done a Top 10 Tuesday for a while, I have decided to do a kind of tag challenge-ish thing that I've seen on a couple people's channel. It's originally from a blog, and when I find everything, I'll link them like in the descriptions and the comments and stuff so people can, you know, find the originals. So what I am doing right now is basically the 10 book challenge, and it is to list 10 books that had a lasting impression on you. Now, I thought about this list, and there's so many books, and I have an entire trilogy on here. And I was wondering if I should remove books, add books, etc. But the thing about it is it is books that had a lasting impression on you. And these books did. So, it's in no particular order. I might number them just to remind myself where I'm at, but yeah, these aren't in any order. So here we go. The first book that I'm going to talk about is The Giver by Lois Lowry. This is probably the first dystopian book I read. So before I continue, the challenge basically is to just not spend a whole lot of time on it. So let's see how quickly I can get this through. So yeah, number one, The Giver. This is such an impactful book for its size. It's just emotional, and it really makes you appreciate the fact that you have choices, even if you don't always make the best choice, that you have the freedom to be human, to make mistakes. This is a book about a society where there's no violence or bad, because everything that makes people human basically is taken away. There's no grandparents, there's no real sunlight, there's no music. Yeah. Number two is Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. This one, I listened to this. I didn't read the physical book, but I listened to the audio, and I think I still like the hard copy, like the physical book. But if you get a chance to listen to this on audio, it is fantastic. It just impressed me because she had such diverse characters, and it touched on, a lot of serious issues about race and what it means to be a woman in society and expectations. And she just mixed that with the story of beauty queens crashing on a remote island and trying to survive. So it had seriousness, it had comedy, and I like the fact that she didn't really demonize anybody. I didn't feel. Number three is Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli. I believe that's the author. So once again, this is quite a small book. I love the quotes in this. I love, I guess you would say, the examination of the manic pixie dream girl, and how sometimes we just like people's personalities and individualism when it benefits us and everything. And it's just basically about appreciating people for their uniqueness and everything. I really like Stargirl as a character. It just showed what can happen, when you try to kind of make people or mold them to a certain way. Number 4 is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This was the first of John Green's books that I read, and I do get why people kind of dislike some of his stuff sometimes, because some of it kind of seems the same-ish, like, but I love him. And I know people have this thing where it's glorifying dying and cancer, but I didn't get that out of that. I liked that not everything in this book was happy. I liked that, that sometimes the characters were sad. Sometimes they came to the realization that they might not live a long life because they are teenagers with cancer. Some of the things were a little bit cringe, I guess you would say. But I thought the overall story just kind of made up for that. But I love the characters. I love their personality. I loved that they wanted to live life to the fullest that they could. That, they had good days and bad days. There were days that they were filled with hopeful quotes, and days where quotes were heartbreaking and real and everything. And I just like his style of writing. I like the characters. Number 5 goes to a book that I recently read just a few months ago, and that is The Shape of Thunder. And The Shape of Thunder is by Jasmine Warga, I believe, was the author. And this one, it just really hits you, like, on the first page. It is about 2 girls. They're like in middle school or something like that. It's a middle grade book. But they used to be best friends, and now they are no longer talking to each other because one girl's older brother had killed her best friend's older sister in a school shooting. And there's a lot about family. The one girl whose sister died, her mother basically abandoned the family. So she's dealing with that. She is, they never said what the mom is. I think she's biracial. She's, I believe, half white and half Arab. And her father, if I remember correctly, is like from Lebanon. So she's dealing with a lot of like race and identity issues because she doesn't feel that she's connecting to her culture, the way that she could be or that she should be. Obviously she's dealing with the fact that her sister is dead because of her friend's brother, and then on the other side, the family is dealing with that their son committed this horrible act. So there's a lot about family, identity, violence, stuff like that. And I thought it was just really well written. The characters were believable as, middle school aged children dealing with this type of tragedy. They're never like, too, I don't want to say too intelligent because that sounds insulting, but they're never made to be like super higher than, in an unbelievable way, but still smart. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's very emotional, and it's just, it kind of hits you just from like the beginning. So for number 6 is The Lovely Bones, and this one just impressed me with its writing style, I guess. The narrative, the description. It basically is about a girl that is lured to an underground like thing by her neighbor and is assaulted and murdered, basically. And it is about her time in the afterlife, watching her family fall apart, seeing that her killer is basically getting away with this, and just about her life and her experiences both on Earth and in the in-between, as they called it. I love the cover. It's simple yet a beautiful blue, that's for one. But it's much like The Shape of Thunder. It's another book that just grabs you from the beginning. It is told in first person, and I'm glad it is, because I like those books where you kind of go on the journey and the experience with the character and everything. And it's heartbreaking, but the prose is beautiful. It can be a slow book, so if you're looking for something action-packed, maybe not, but if you want something that's going to emotionally tear you apart, yeah, I definitely recommend The Lovely Bones. And then we've come to the trilogy. For 7, 8, and 9 is going to be the Hunger Games trilogy, and I'm just going to kind of talk about them all at once. So that's the Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay. So what I loved about these books, especially the first one, because the first one, it starts you out in the world and everything. I just loved how Suzanne Collins, Alice E. Bowles wrote The Lovely Bones. I loved how Suzanne Collins, she was able to weave in metaphor, symbolism, social commentary on things such as violence, poverty, prejudice, classism, the blind acceptance of things. I think the use of names was interesting, how people in the elite society, because it's basically about, a futuristic America where basically the rich, the elite, rules the country, rules the government, basically. And you have an annual fight to the death by poor children every year. And I thought things like naming was clever. People in poorer districts, like our main character Katniss, and or Rue, are usually named after plants or have more old-fashioned names. There's Greasy Say, there's Gale, Hazel, and people in, like, I guess wealthier ones are like Glimmer, or more Roman type names as Octavia. So I thought the naming was clever. I thought, the use of ancient, like, Roman history and modern war and everything, was cleverly put in there. The characters are believable. I like that we didn't have a person that lived in a suburb in a nice house that discovered that they were the chosen one. Because despite the fact that Katniss does become like the Mockingjay, the symbol of rebellion, of revolution, she still is portrayed as a confused teenager. She's not always likable, and I like that about the characters. I like that they're real. I just thought everything that she did was very clever. There's a lot, like I said, of social commentary on things, and I think the point is that as much as we want to be Katniss, we're not always Katniss. And I like it's the type of books that people can have different perspectives on. And I like that not everything, much like The Fault in Our Stars, not everything was just ended perfectly. there was a lot of pain towards the end of those books, but I get to the point because it is kind of a symbolism of, like I said, classism and war, and horrible, unjust things happen. The thing about the Hunger Games is if it makes you mad, that's the point. And finally, number 10. Number 10 is The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. This is by Kate D. Camillo. It was hard to pick because I like her books a lot, but this one was just so emotional. I think this one's more of a children's book almost, even the more middle grade. But I love this book. It's sad, yet kind of adventurous, like sadly adventurous. I don't know how to explain it. Basically, it is about a China rabbit. Yeah, the book is told like about this China rabbit that kind of has like this consciousness and everything, and he's very vain and he gets lost, and it's about his journey with other like owners and how he begins to like appreciate things other than himself, and it's very insightful. It much like The Giver, it's kind of, you know, about humanity, basically, in a way. And just the quote with the stars and everything is just heartbreaking, and I loved this book. I like how he grows as a character, the things that he sees and experiences, and how it shapes him to be a better rabbit, I guess, or person. But yeah, that is my 10 books that had a lasting impression on me. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.